Hi, everybody. Oh my gosh, long time no see. I have so missed connecting with you guys live and through my videos and all of that. Fingers crossed that our connection holds today. I've been in Kansas, rural Kansas with my family, my mom and stepdad for the past almost 2 months. And I've just got about a week and a half left before I am landing in San Francisco. And I've really loved being out here, but one of the things I do not love is the frickin' internet, man. They are, there's not a lot of options out here. So, it's just you sort of take what you can get in terms of services and options. And Cox is the cable company that they use, and it sucks so bad. I could not be closer to the router unless it was inside of me. So I'm hoping that the connection holds. So apologies in advance if things get a little bit wonky. We'll hope that things hold, at least for like a 240p connection. Yeah, I am just really excited to be connecting with you guys. I know that I've been sort of MIA lately, and that has not been by design, at least not, from my perspective or my choice from the conscious place of, Andrew deciding that he was going to go dark for a while. It's just been a really, really, I don't know what's the word I want to use. Everything just sort of, language just sort of fails, I think, when trying to describe kind of what's going on with me personally and just sort of what I see on the planet at this time. It's a super, super powerful thing, but it just feels like in so many ways we are in completely uncharted territory. And that's very exciting. But it also can make it really challenging to try to describe, what it is that's going on. I'm a little bit sleepy still. I've been just enjoying a lazy morning, and so forgive me if this isn't entirely coherent, because the idea that I want to talk about is still something that is sort of coming together in my mind. This idea of, and I also apologize, I'm not sure what's going on now with the Facebook Live comments. I think that they have like a delay, a really big delay between when I'm broadcasting and then when your comments or your interactions come through. So apologies if I don't see your comments right away. I'm not really sure how to circumvent that. Facebook has been doing all sorts of crazy stuff lately. But I've been going through this big transformation, and I think, it's really been ongoing this entire year. And it feels to me like, and what I'm starting to see now contextually, now that we're close to the end of the year, like, I can't believe we're already in mid-October. And what I see now, sort of with the hindsight of the year that we've had thus far, is this has been all about this like massive merging of ourself. And when I'm talking about the self, and I recorded a video recently called You Are Your Higher Self. And then before that, there was a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month ago now, there was the video Stop Being Spiritual. And then before that, I had taken time off from doing clients, and then I had switched up all my offerings. So it has been one shift from one shift to another, to another, to another. And, this idea that we will never, I was talking to my friend Jeremy yesterday, who's the co-host now for my radio show, Jeremy Nudell. And we were talking about it, and he was like, so what's been going on with you? How have you been? And I was like, well, I feel like something really big has shifted recently. And then I sort of laugh at myself for that idea because, we're always shifting. Our experience is not static. Our experience is not linear. Our experience is not, okay, I go from this place to this place to this place. It is always moving from, one place to another place. And it's like we're this 360-degree experience that's always expanding and growing and moving in all directions. So to say that something has shifted is an understatement, right? Like, yeah, like no shit, Andrew, things have shifted. But I look back on the year, and what I see predominantly has been occurring, and I use my own experience as an example, but I see this a lot happening in my client sessions, is it's about merging through fluidity. And when I'm talking about merging, this is like, there's Andrew the human. There's me as I identify as the physical flesh and blood self, who is 46 years old and has, had this progression of experiences in my life. But there's the rest of me. There's, what we would call the higher self. There's what I would call, past life versions or concurrent life or alternate life, however you perceive other incarnations and other lifetimes to occur. There's, other aspects of myself that aren't necessarily anchored in a human experience on the planet. And none of them are separate. And this past year has been about opening up more and more space and expanding further and further and getting deeper and deeper and higher, right? It's happening all simultaneously. It's like I'm expanding this way and I'm expanding this way and I'm expanding this way. And all of this is bringing us to this place where we are merging with all that we are. And we begin to see, or we continue to see, this concept that, and this is something that I've been saying for a while now, but it's been more of like a theoretical sort of like I read this in a book or I have an understanding of it, that, my experience, our human experience is not the beginning and the ending of who and what we are. And suffering really occurs when we think that, our existence stops at the end of our nose, that my human experience is all there is. And that if I'm suffering or miserable, then that's all I am. Or if I'm happy or joyful, then that's all I am. Or if I'm this thing or that thing, then I'm just one singular thing. And that's just not true at all. There's so much more to who we are and what we are than our human experience. That's like saying my body is only my pinky. And there's this analogy that I've been playing with, and this really came through strongly. I was recently in Sarasota this past weekend for the In5D conference, and I spoke there, and it was so amazing to meet people. I met Katja Turner and Candace Craw-Goldman and Michelle Walling and all these people that I had only known online and virtually, and it was so wonderful to meet them in person and to meet so many of you live as well. But it's this idea of an inverted pyramid, right? So we've got the base of the pyramid up here, and then we've got the point at the bottom. And we can perceive ourselves in our human incarnation as being at the point of this pyramid, at sort of the bottom of this inverted pyramid. And when we perceive ourselves to only be in this human experience, when I perceive that the human experience of Andrew is all there is, and that's the beginning and the end, then that's when I'm carrying the weight of the bulk of this pyramid on my shoulders. And that perception of myself as only having this human perspective is what creates so much suffering and so much pressure and so much density within me, that I'm just being crushed by the weight of all of this. And when I allow myself to expand into this broader perspective, because the broader perspective is always there. This is not new information. This is me remembering the truth of who I am. That's what we're going through right now. So much of what we're experiencing right now is just remembering, okay, like put it in perspective, put it in a bigger context. And when we allow ourselves to emerge from the bottom of this teeny tiny little point of the pyramid that's, underneath all of this, then I realized that I can expand into that broader perspective. And as I move up the inverted pyramid, my perspective gets wider and wider and broader, and I begin to have a lot more context. And energetically, I get bigger and I expand, and my field moves away from this singular little point. And I realized that, I am all of this. Yes, I am Andrew, but I'm also all the stuff in the middle, and I'm the stuff over there and on the left and the right. And I'm also this broad, expanded perspective that exists up here. And this merging through fluidity is understanding that as we are expanding, these walls drop away. This has been coming up a lot in my energy work sessions, and the energy work stuff that I've been doing has taken on another interesting aspect that, I used to do these intuitive readings, and it was just me sitting with a client and having a conversation and tuning in and sort of getting information, and it was a reading in the traditional sense. And then it moved more into this energy workspace that was much more fluid and much less linear. And it wasn't really about, what's my husband up to? Does my boss like me? And where's my, my lottery numbers? And those are important questions in some, on a certain level of awareness. But I found myself being called to this broader sense, the bigger part of the pyramid, because from this bigger perspective, we can look down and say, okay, yeah, there's my human self down there. And that's who I am. But I am also all of this. And there is no separation between the two. And the work that I'm doing now has been this merging of the intuitive stuff and the energy stuff. So the energy work is still happening, but there's also this rush of intuitive information that has started to come through. And so I'm seeing, again, I was separating at the intuitive reading and the energy work, and I wasn't really doing the intuitive readings anymore, and I was kind of separating the two, but they've started to merge now. And what I'm seeing with my clients is that partitions are falling away. Separation is falling away. The me that sits here and is engaging with you in front of this camera, and the me that maybe existed several thousands of years ago, and the me that exists maybe over in another timeline or another dimension, we're all connected, and there is no separation. And this image that I've been getting a lot with clients, it's been this partitions falling away. And the image that I keep seeing is it's like you're in a giant office and there's all these partitions, right? The cubicles that are separating everybody. And as we expand, our energy field just knocks down these partitions. It just gets bigger and bigger, and it just knocks them down because it moves beyond the limitations of our perception of myself as just this little teeny tiny point at the base of the pyramid. And it expands, and as it knocks down these walls, it just morphs and absorbs the other versions of self, right? If so, we think about it in this office with thousands and thousands of employees. I'm really all of those employees. They're all aspects of me. And as this separation falls away, then I just merge with them and we sort of morph and absorb one another. It's kind of like if you see droplets of water on the window when it's raining, and you see the water droplets, they come together and they get bigger and bigger and they create a much bigger. So it's that visual of us just expanding, and our energy field connects with these other aspects of ourself and just becomes a bigger, more expanded version of self. And it's what I've been calling the whole self. So it's not that Andrew and the higher self and my guides and my whatever other aspects are separate. We're now just all part of the same consciousness. And we can access these other levels of information whenever we want. But we must be fluid in our experience and merging through the fluid state. And when I say fluid, I mean energetically. Think of yourself as this fluid being. Think of yourself as the flow. You're not in the flow, you are the flow. And the circumstances and the stuff that has been happening over the past year, the past 10 months, has all been moving us to this place of this continued expansion and this continued release of separation and partitions within our bodies and our minds and our energy fields. I'm now seeing that this is part of why we began to see the collapse of the chakra system. I was seeing that happen quite a bit with my clients, that, the chakras were falling apart. They were collapsing, and we were just moving into the singular energy center within the body. And it's a continual process, right? It's still happening. But that's what this is about, is the partitions are falling away. And the only way that that can continue to happen is if we are fluid within our experience. And understanding that the mind and living through the mind and living through the linear construct of the mind is limited by definition. The mind can only do so much. The human physical mind is limited by the construct biologically of what it is. And sure, we are moving into a place where now we've got the divine mind, and so we're expanding, and the ego can be sort of, we're repurposing the ego. So now the ego's not in charge, and the ego has become our assistant. And we see this rebalancing of our point of awareness, and living through the heart really helps to create this shift in my perspective. And now that I am living through the heart, that's when this massive expansion begins to occur. Dropping the need to know, dropping the need for the plan, dropping the need for I've got to be right, I've got to be successful, I've got to be this, I've got to acquire, I've got to succeed, all of these ego-driven, ego-based, needs of the personality. The personality is important. Yeah, it's important to know who Andrew is and what Andrew wants and what Andrew, prefers. But Andrew is not the be-all, end-all of my experience. Andrew is one level of perception. And so dropping into the heart and beginning to learn and grow through the wisdom and the experience of the heart is when things become fluid. And the heart has no requirement, because the only claim the heart ever makes is I am. I am. And the heart is fluid in its approach to existence and experience, because it knows that whatever, it takes the shape of whatever experience is present. It lets itself be informed by what is present through the choosings of Andrew as the personality self. Okay, I choose to go here, I choose to go there. The heart responds to that. The heart says, okay, well, this is still who I am. And sometimes the heart says, okay, this is about being loving and soft. This is about going internal. This is about allowing, or this is about being assertive and forward motion, right? Moving more into the masculine energy of moving forward and asserting and choosing and doing and physically creating, or being in that feminine energy of being receptive and listening and observing and receiving. And all of them are important, and all of them are necessary at one time or another, and that just depends. And then then the ball, then things sort of flip. And then it's the heart that's leading, and the heart says, hey, Andrew, what if you did this? Or, hey, Andrew, are you really happy? Or, hey, Andrew, what do you really think about this? What do you feel here? And when we understand that all of these perspectives are valid at one point or another, and that sometimes I am seeing through the eyes of Andrew, sometimes I am the divine seeing through myself, and I'm seeing, so I can take the big picture of the inverted pyramid, or I can let myself take the small, very focused, very restricted view of only Andrew, and all of them are correct, and all of them are valid, but I cannot merge all these aspects of myself without fluidity. And when I am determined, and when I am rigid, and I say no, what Andrew wants from his level, the level of his personality, is the only thing that matters, and that's all that will ever be, and he's born, and he lives, and he dies, and that's it. That does not allow space for expansion beyond the limitations of what the mind believes is possible. The mind is such a limited perspective, and it has to be. That's the point of it. The mind is only about what it can see or taste or touch or smell or hear or visually observe. And that's how the mind categorizes information, and that's fine. But to only see through that perspective is a massive limitation. And conversely, if I'm up here floating in this high place, right? So continuing the pyramid metaphor, if I allow myself to expand up here, and I'm only ever seeing my experience from this very airy, very high level, very ungrounded perspective, then I'm not necessarily going to be able to take action. I'm not necessarily going to be able to actually be physically rooted in my experience. And both of them are necessary for the fullest experience. And I see this all the time, a person or an individual who is really, really up here and very much in these higher air, we could say they're up in the 12th dimension or the fairy realm or whatever, but they're not necessarily grounded. It's the thing that I've been saying, what happened to Dorothy after she got back from Oz, right? Because Oz is this very heady, fantastical, magical place, and it's all up here, but it's not where she lives. It doesn't require her to be practical and take action in terms of what does the human require? What does the personality self require, right? I gotta eat, I gotta drink, I gotta sleep, I need a house or a place to live, I got bills to pay, I got people to take care of, I've got kids or a spouse or a job or a boss or whatever. So how do I let all of myself be present? And that is the truth, is that the fullness of all that we are is always focused right here, right now. All that I am, the infinite self, is focusing itself through the experience of Andrew right now and always. Well, always for the context of this life called Andrew. But I chose this. As my divine self, I chose the experience of Andrew for a reason. It was because I wanted to do it. And so I never discount the experience of Andrew because that's what I chose. And as Andrew, I have an option always to allow myself to see either from the very limited perspective at the point of that upside down pyramid, and that's all there ever is, and this is a burden, and now I'm suffering, and it's heavy, and it's dense, and, you know, it's this very, very cumbersome experience. Or I can allow myself to still be, you know, present as Andrew, but to see things through the expanded perspective, and this requires fluidity. So when we are finding ourselves feeling frustrated, when we're finding ourselves butting up against our experience, when we're finding ourselves feeling lost or feeling sad or feeling like we're suffering or feeling confused or feeling frustrated, that is always a clue that I am only seeing things from this perspective down here. And it's not to say that it's not valid. My frustration may be very valid. But what allows me to move through that is to say, okay, right now I'm really frustrated. Right now I'm feeling lost, or right now I'm feeling whatever. And so I can acknowledge that here I am at the point of the pyramid, and what do I require right now? What would help me feel okay about where I am? What would allow me to just drop this resistance, just accepting where I am? Okay. Here I am. I'm not going to fight it. This is not a less than experience. The human experience is not a consolation prize. And so I choose to see where I am and I accept it, and then suddenly things shift and I go, okay, I can allow this frustration to move through me. I can allow this anger or fear or sadness to move through me. But I don't have to be so focused and stuck on that I am sad right now or I am frustrated right now. Okay, be frustrated and be sad as long as you need to be, but also understand that there's always the opportunity to see it from the higher perspective and to hold myself within my experience and say, I see that Andrew is experiencing sadness right now, and I'm going to hold him until he's not sad anymore. So this idea of being fluid allows me to move in and out of levels of awareness, understanding that they're all me. You know, it's like the body. I can focus on the hand, I can focus on the foot, I can focus on the head, I can focus on any part of myself, I can focus internally. And all of them are the body, all of them are important, all of these levels of awareness are me. But I get to choose in any moment where I am focused. And if I have a physical pain, I can choose to ignore that pain, or I can choose to acknowledge it and give it what it requires, whether it's an aspirin, whether it's a kiss, whether it's a bandage, whether it's a visit to the doctor. But ignoring that pain doesn't make it go away, but it's also not all that I am. You know, if I have a broken pinky, that's what? I don't know, 1% of my body. And yeah, when it's broken, that pain is very real and it feels like that's all that I am, right? It's like, oh my God, my whole body is in pain. Yeah, so you tend to it and you give it what it needs and you nurture it and you love it and you accept it as it is in its state. And then you remember, oh, there's like 99% of the rest of myself that is not broken, that is not in pain. And I can allow the rest of me to hold that space of being whole and being healed and being well to support the part of me that is currently in pain. And this merging into these other levels of awareness and consciousness can only happen with that fluidity. And that is what these circumstances we've been going through are calling us to remember. Is that right here, right now, where you are may be frustrating. It may feel like you're lost and you're unsure and you don't know. And I'm seeing a lot of this right now is that, you know, after the eclipse and the new moons and the portals and the equinoxes and all of the events that we've been going through over the past couple of months, many of us are standing in this place where we're like, okay, I've let go of all the old stuff, but I still have no fucking idea of where to go and what to do. And that's okay. You're not going to know until you know. And not knowing doesn't mean that you've missed the boat. Not yet having a plan or having a very clear idea doesn't mean that you've done something wrong. It just means that we're still sort of waiting for things to settle down, and I am still allowing. I'm not searching for the clarity. I'm not chasing the clarity. I'm not begging for clarity. I am present, and I am allowing it to present itself to me. And that's where we are right now, is this merging of the selves, this merging through fluidity. It's still occurring, and I'm seeing this. It's very interesting. I was talking to my friend Jeremy yesterday, and we were talking about, the gay thing, which is this new project that I started, which if you haven't checked it out, you can check out the website, thegaything.com, or It's the Gay Thing on Facebook and Instagram. And YouTube, and we have our first 3 episodes out, and it's my friend Ryan and I are doing this podcast project that we've begun, and we want to do live events and get into doing live events and workshops and retreats as well. And it's talking about our lives and our experiences in a very real, very immediate, very visceral, earthbound, physical, it's a very human experience that we're talking about. And then I also have the Andrew Martin energy, which is this higher level, sort of non-physical, not super always grounded, because when I am in session with my clients, I'm not just always grounded here. I'm really opening up to really encompass a lot of space. And Jeremy made a very important and very insightful comment. He said, basically what I see is it's like, the Venn diagram, right? And the gay thing is sort of the lower energy centers. It's rooted and it's in the human experience, and it's very much Andrew stepping forward as Andrew talking about his human experience. And then Andrew Martin energy is the other part of you, that's the higher level, more expanded, non-physical version of self. But the Venn diagram is the heart, right? So the Venn diagram is those 2 overlapping circles, right? And wherever they meet in the middle is the point of similarity, or the point where these two seemingly separate things meet. And so I've got this Venn diagram, and the lower circle is the gay thing, and then the higher circle is Andrew Martin energy, and where they meet is the heart. And that's where I really begin to see this visual of, oh, this is just about connecting through the heart. And whether it's my heartfelt expression of myself as Andrew the human, or my heartfelt expression of the rest of me and all that I am, which includes Andrew, it's all just an expression, and I can move in and out of these levels of awareness, and I still don't know exactly what this all means. I still don't know what the end game is. I don't know what it all looks like, and my practice is still continuing to shift, and the gay thing is still continuing to expand and open up and bring on new levels and new, it's showing itself to me in new ways every single day. But it's all important, and it's all me, and it's all just a different level of perspective. And the only way I'm ever going to allow it to reveal itself to me is through fluidity. To allow myself to trust that, what is exciting and important to me right now may not be exciting and important to me tomorrow. What used to be really exciting and important to me, what used to be sort of my formula for success within my practice, it's not the same anymore. And I have a choice. I can either cling to that and clench onto it and say, no, I need this. And this is the only way I've ever been successful, and this is the only way I ever will be successful, and I've got to make it work this way. That's always the mind. Or I can say, okay, I'm a little nervous, I'm a little unsure, I'm a little anxious, I don't know exactly where this is heading, but I can trust that if I'm not exactly sure what's happening, that there's a level of me that is perfectly sure of what's happening, and I can just allow myself to be held by the larger aspect of me that I may not immediately understand or have access to, but I can trust, and I can fall back into that. I can fall back into myself, and I can let myself carry me forward, and trust that when it's time for me to know, I'm going to know, and then when it's time to make a choice, I'll make a choice. And when it's time to take action, the choices will be there. And I'll get to decide, what do I want to do right now? What feels like the truest choice? And understanding that that may be true for a day, it may be true for a month, or it may be true for a year. And it doesn't really matter. Because if it's true, it's true. And who cares how long it's true? Does that really matter? And only I know what truth feels like. Only you know what truth feels like. So whatever's true now, let it be true. And just because the mind is saying, no, I don't want that to be true. I don't want to be in the unknown. I don't want to be without the plan. I don't want to be in limbo. Well, too bad, you are. So be in limbo. And the suffering of that only comes when you believe that there's something wrong with it. The suffering only comes when I only see myself from that perspective of the point of the pyramid. So I just relax and I allow myself to expand into my experience, and I drop the limitations of what I think this means, and I drop the story of what I think this is telling me, and I let go of the expectation of how I thought things needed to be. and I just let myself be where I am. And immediately I slip into this fluidity, and then I expand to meet my experience rather than trying to force my experience to be something that I think it needs to be. And when I expand into my experience, then I'm limitless. Then I can say, all right, let's see how big this can get. Let me just let this expand, and I don't have to define the limitations from my human perspective. I can let my expanded self say, you haven't even begun to see what's possible. And if you'll drop your rigid, linear, mind-based perspective, you will amaze yourself, because you will begin to move beyond that. But if you've decided that, nope, it's only this big and it's got to look like this, it's got to taste like this, it's got to smell like this or sound like this, or this is how it has to be, well, then I'm defining myself by my pinky again. I know this is a lot of metaphors. I love a metaphor and an analogy. And like I said, this is still something that I'm sort of working on, but I just wanted to connect with you guys and just sort of share with you what I'm seeing right now is this merging through fluidity. Just let it go. Just let it go. We're being called to a higher place, and we can't get there if we continue to weigh ourselves down by these old limited ways of doing things and thinking that it has to be this way or it's not the right way or whatever. So that's it, really. I just wanted to connect with you guys, and I'm really excited that my connection has held. Maybe we're actually going to get a clear HD video out of this. I am going to be in Los Angeles. I'm going to be coming down to Los Angeles once a month for the next 3 months and possibly beyond. So October dates are the 26th and the 27th at House of Intuition. I'm taking private clients on Thursday the 26th, and I'm doing my event from 7 to 9 on Friday the 27th, Becoming the Whole Self. And it's very similar to the soul expansion calls. So it's 2 hours of conversation and insight and question and answer and guidance and lots of laughs and lots of, high level, high vibrational, fun stuff that we're going to chat about. And it's just, it's just a great way to connect and really, and then the energy work at the end is when we really open up the door and allow the fullness of what we are to really come in, and man, it just blows the doors off of whatever we're experiencing energetically. Then I'm also doing my energy sessions, which you can go to my website and book an energy session. I am doing them remotely. And that's it. I just wanted to, come on and share some ideas and sort of ruminate with you. So thanks you guys for watching. I hope that your October is off to a good start. Yeah, that's it. Thanks you guys. Love you. Bye.